Ryan here with Prudential Pest Solutions, and we are going to be treating and removing a rather large yellow jacket nest that was in the ceiling of the little mudroom here. And the first thing I did here was, before I set this black tarp up, is there's a little pantry door there, and my thought was I want to minimize, because there's always going to be some yellow jackets that come out. I wanted to minimize where they could go, and so I had the light on behind me, and I have a glass door right to my right, so that presumably any yellow jackets that came into this space would go right to those two light sources, thinking that's a way out. So I was just trying to minimize any chance that any of these could get into the house itself, even though most likely they'd be lethargic / dying. You still don't want to have stinging insects flying into a customer's house. So in this case, we did the best we could. We just kind of shut that pantry door a little bit, and we're going to get treating. So I have my bee suit on, I have my drywall saw, I have a flashlight ready, and I have my PTPI. Now, we knew where this nest was. You can kind of see some discoloration there, and it's super soft. You can see with that drywall saw, I just poked just a little hole right through it. And then I'm going to use my injector here, and I'm going to inject the PTPI, which is an aerosol, directly into that void. And you can feel when you push up, typically there's insulation there, and in this case I felt not like wood or a joist, but more something firmer. So I knew that I was right in the nest. So of course my can of PTPI ran out, so I had to put another one on. There's a good shot of the System 2 injector that I use. And we're just going to make sure that we have this all injected. Now in this case, the homeowner had actually gone into the attic space above a few days prior to calling us, and he had sprayed some over-the-counter stuff. So he actually had killed off the vast majority. You see how easy that is to cut. I mean, they had whittled that drywall away. So anyway, if this was a lot of like a lot of our other videos, you would see yellow jackets dead pouring out of there, and we got a quick glimpse of there. There's how much of the drywall was left. You can see it was just the paper backing and the paint holding that little section up. So if this nest was active, they could have easily broken right through, or worst case, I've had homeowners think it was a water leak, and they're like, what is that on my ceiling? And they start, and they poke right into a yellow jacket nest, and then they're having a really bad day. So because this nest was almost all the way dead already, I injected with the PTPI, and now I'm just removing section by section of the nest. Now I could have cut a larger hole, but the drywall in that surrounding area was all in really good shape, and I'm trying to make the patching process for the homeowner easier, so we try to make as small a hole as possible, and I just blindly use my hand and grab nesting out of there. Now this one was pretty big. It was bigger than a football size, I would guess, and it was stacked. I mean, it was stacked layer on top of layer. And you can see I'm just pulling it out and just dropping it right onto that tarp there. Now, some people are surprised that even though, and these are yellow jackets, even though these yellow jackets built their home inside, built their nest inside of this space here, they'll still make a paper backing. And we have another video that'll show you, I think it's called How Hornets Make Their Nests, but yellow jackets will do the same thing. So what they do is they go up to like wood fences, decks, and they chew these little lines in it. It almost looks like little chew stripes going down the wood. And what they're doing is they're eating the wood, they're mashing it up into a pulp, and then they're using that to create their nest. But they, just like hornets in a tree or on a bush, yellow jackets will do the same thing. They'll make this paper nest, or this paper covering over their nest, and they get that wood from fences, decks, porches, that sort of thing. So I'm looking up there, and what I'm looking for is I want to just make sure left and right that all of the nesting material is out of here. That insulation that we see is that's that yellow fluffy stuff coming out as well. So they have loose fill fiberglass above them. It's not like that rolled out fiberglass. So there's some little chunks that are coming out, but I'm just feeling around in there, making sure I have all the nesting out before we tape and close this up. Now, prior to us taping, there's a couple things we can do. We can just tape it up, because in this case we're 100% sure we're getting all the nest out. But if we weren't sure, or it was in an area where we couldn't physically get all the nest out, or it was a smaller void, we could use some insecticidal dust. Now I like using Tempo dust, but there's things like Delta dust and Alpine dust, and I would put that underneath that insulation, just in that void there, And that would kill off any stragglers. But in this case, the void was so large, it was loose fill fiberglass, and I knew that people were going to be working right in this area here, so I didn't want to put any long-term insecticidal dust. I was going to make sure that we sprayed it on the outside. So we're just making sure everything's cleaned up. And this is the first year I found this large white tape. In years prior, I was using black tape or duct tape or something like that, but I found this white tape, and I use it, other guys use it, and I think it looks nice, honestly. And it puts less pressure on the homeowner and less stress on them, saying like, oh my God, I got to get this fixed right here, right now. And we know how hard it is to get contractors and handymen and that sort of thing. So in this case, with the white tape, it looks nice. It does what it needs to do, which is to keep that insulation up there, ensure that any straggling yellow jackets can't get into the space. And it looks nice, and no one really is going to notice it right away. It's not going to be some giant eyesore. So that's why we started using this white tape. So we're just going to tape this up, make sure it looks all nice and pretty. And then we'll get our vacuum out, we'll get everything cleaned up, and then we'll go treat the outside. And when we treat the outside, we treat the whole outside of the house, which is going to be for things, like other wasps, hornets, ants, spiders. We just do a good treatment around the house where we're hitting the foundation, the eaves, the soffits, just ensuring that we have a good chemical barrier on the outside, nest is removed on the inside, everything will be cleaned up, and this homeowner will be happy. Now, this particular homeowner only lived very, very close to our office, which made for a short commute, but they are also a giant Penn State family. So as is my family and my company, as you can tell by our company colors, I'm an alum, and this family here has both the husband and wife went to Penn State, and their 3 kids are either graduated or currently there. So just a good Penn State family. So I have my battery-powered vacuum here. We use the Milwaukee brand, and I'm just going around, I'm cleaning all this up. I should also mention, too, that as efficient as this looks, I actually have this video sped up a little bit, just to keep our time under 15 minutes for the video. So we're going to make sure everything's cleaned up. As you can see, I have my shoe covers on because we're always respectful of people's homes. And we're just going to make sure everything's cleaned up. So I'm just getting any nesting debris that came out, any drywall debris, any insulation, and getting everything cleaned up. So we are the hornet, bee, wasp experts. So if you have a yellow jacket issue or any stinging insect, I'd love to be your pest guy. So give us a call, 484-40